I said it before and I'll say it again.
That scene, that last scene.
What does it mean?
I'm the dude, you know?
Get the fuck out of here.
No, I cannot. That final scene
starts now.
Hello, and welcome back to That Final Scene. My name is Sophie, and I'll be your host for the next, hopefully less than an hour or so.
If the recording goes smoothly.
If the recording goes smooth. Well, we're trying a new format, so
yeah.
we'll
Another
see.
one. I thought we did that last week.
Well, they're two different formats.
Yeah.
Well, we're trying to cut Simon up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trying to shake things up a little here.
Yep, exactly. So this episode is our final scene episode. We just wanted to do a proper deep dive because we thought sometimes we didn't get the chance to do that in the previous episodes.
Yeah. We used to take like 20 minutes and feel like we were rushing through those final scenes, but now we can actually give it a bit more time and
do some more research for people.
Exactly. Bring more clips.
Yes.
Make it more of an audio experience. And I don't care
Sophie's
if you hate
brought an
me for
audio
saying
experience
that.
with her.
Oh, yeah.
It's very good.
It's, yeah.
It's very
Of
intimate.
all the clips we could have had and all the films we could have picked, this is a good one.
It's one of those clips that have a very different context when you don't have the scene in front of you.
Yes. I was saying this to you guys before, but like I've been listening to another podcast called James Bonding, which is fantastic if you like Bond movies. And they were playing the final scene of Die Another Day. And the scene itself is Pierce Brosnan and Halle Berry assumedly post-intercourse covered in diamonds. And she has like diamonds in her belly button. And he's like taking them out. And she's like, no, leave it in. And he's like, we have to go. And she's like, just a little bit more time. Leave it in. And without seeing that and just listening to it, it is one of the most uncomfortable things. It's such a, like the dialogue by itself without the visual is like skin crawling. It's so bad. I recommend everyone to listen to that podcast because it's great and James Bond's amazing. But this is the episode as well where we are now going to try something even newer than obviously just this new format is our Desert Island DVDs is kind of what we're calling it now, but also that name can be changed. We are open to suggestions. We'll also be thinking of a name. But basically, this was something that we thought about while we were taking a bit of a break and something that we wanted to try different where, well, today, at least, Simon, Sophie and I are going to pitch 3 films that are going to be brought with us to that final scene in Desert Island. And then every week, 2 of us will have to basically battle it out Royal Rumble style to enter a new film and have whoever has as many films on the island that week is the winner, and that will be chosen by anybody listening. We'll put it out to you guys to vote after we've made our pitches.
That is so
exciting. You're going to hear us having some really intense arguments hopefully in the future on this podcast, so if you like some drama, get ready.
To set some ground rules, or maybe like the number one rule and the only rule. The concept is these are the films you would take on a desert island with you.
Yes.
Not the best films of all time, right?
No.
So I think we need to make that clear.
It's ours.
Well, I made a list of categories that we could judge them by.
Interesting.
And the ones I was going on were, and this is just 9 that off the top of my head.
What?
Originality.
Okay.
Risk-taking.
Okay.
Wig work.
Excellent.
Cross-dressing.
Ooh.
Emotional drama.
It's getting very specific.
Creativity/absurdity. Cultural impact. Comedy value. Tension.
I can't believe you can prepare, Simon. What the hell?
Well, I thought, because we were talking about top drums, like how would we, if these films were all in a deck of cards, what would be the thing that we would use to kick the other ones out?
Yeah, and what would be their speciality?
Yeah.
Just feels like there's a lot going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can solidify it a bit.
Yeah, for sure.
But I love that we have some rules to go.
So
go
I guess, Sophie, do you want to kick us off? Do you want to enter your plea?
Okay, so I'm gonna go with my basic bitch.
Love it.
I hate that term so much.
I know you hate that term. I can't wait for this, whatever it is.
It's gender neutral. Like it could be your basic bitch film as well, right?
Okay.
Because it's so basic, but it's actually so good. I'm gonna go with Fight Club.
Okay.
Because this has to be there. It's the film that I've rewatched the most in my life.
Okay.
27 times to be precise.
Wow. How you keep track?
Yeah. I mean, I think probably 20 of them came when I was 20 to 22. I just probably rewatched it like every other week or something for a very long time. It's It's my favorite Fincher film. I think it has everything. If we go back to your list, Simon, I think it probably ticks every box. Comedic value aside, I'm not sold on that. But
it has its moments.
It has its moments. Yeah,
Darkly comic.
Marla Singer for sure. And it has everything. A cultural impact. It's so quotable. I think it's a film, and the reason I put it in my list is because I feel like it's very misunderstood. I think people have taken it for a pro-incel kind of, mindset and mentality, and I don't think that's the case. I think Fincher was trying to prove the opposite. And then you have Brad Pitt in his hottest film ever. Like, what? Well, you can't.
He's ripped.
Tyler Durden has picked, and just you can't unsee the Tyler Durden.
I mean, there's something to be said for the fact that you don't talk about Fight Club and you're talking about it on a podcast that's going to be listened to by a lot of people. But hey, I'm sure Fincher would have wanted it that way.
That is true. I probably should have said the film that must not be
no
named.
one talks about. Yeah, but everyone think you were talking about Macbeth. Ugh.
Yeah. So that's number one for me.
Okay, so number one.
My number one is The Death of Stalin.
Okay,
it's an Armando Iannucci film. He wrote and directed it, and it hits my 9 criteria, I think, really well, because it's like a black political satire of when Stalin dies in Russia. And it was made in 2017, so it's the most modern of my 3 choices. Because I've picked 3 films through the years.
Good.
So one of them starts off in the 70s, one of them's like 90s, and one of them's 2017s, and one of them's quite modern. It's absurd at times. It's completely mad. I think it's very original because of that. And particularly original because it's like Northern English people playing Russians. It's hilarious. So you've got these Northern English accents and other accents as well playing these Russian.
It's an entirely kind of English cast, isn't it?
It's completely mad. It's very, very funny. And I think it's banned in Russia because of, it's like anti-USSR or whatever.
Oh, wow. So it's a political statement there as well.
So there's some cultural impact. And a bit of risk taking. It's got Michael Palin in. He's one of my heroes from Monty Python. Because I would have almost picked Life of Brian if I couldn't have picked this one, which is a similar sort of absurd, anti-establishment, controversial type film. And there's a scene that always makes me smile. There's a Northern actor called Jason Isaacs.
Oh yeah,
of
Jason
course.
Isaacs is in
we love
loads
Jason.
of stuff.
Grainy Northern accent.
We
His
love
voice
Jason.
is insane.
Very threatening. Well, he's got that like dark smoldering look.
There's a scene where he enters this like grand stateroom in the film, and it's all in slow motion, and he has this jacket on. He's like head of the army or something, and he has all these medals like dripping off the jacket. And this is what he says when he walks in.
Right, what's a war hero got to do? Get some lubrication around here.
Jesus.
And it's amazing. It's so brilliantly timed. It's really like confident, and it's all in slow motion as he takes his jacket off. And it's just what I imagine a Russian general would be doing.
Nice,
except without the Northern accent.
Nice, good pick.
Oh, okay, it's a good show. Yeah, and I think it's good to have an Iannucci one in there, considering the mark he's left on British comedy. If you haven't watched any Armando Iannucci stuff, get out and watch it. If not just for that sketch he did of the man who's terrified of bigger boys kicking a football at him because he'll have to kick it back, which is just incredible.
That was in a series he did called the Armando Iannucci Shows, which is excellent.
Then leads on to that episode of the IT Crowd where Moss learns to talk like a man. It's basically like the inspiration for it. So my first one, I'll go for a comedy as well. I mentioned it on the last episode. And part of me wanted to do it just to bring a clip of it, but also because I think it's possibly one of the funniest films ever made is What We Do in the Shadows. I love it because it feels like it's everything a mockumentary should be, in that it kind of feels a little bit low rent. It feels low budget because it probably was. And yet it's cast to perfection. It's incredibly funny. And it's, I think it's shot for shot almost perfect,
Tonight we are going out into Wellington Central. It is important that we look good.
Yeah, it's really good, I like one of the unfortunate things about not having a reflection is that you don't know exactly what you look like.
And it plays on like cool vampire tropes,
A ghost cap floating all by itself.
We can give each other feedback and help each other out until we're looking great.
Yeah, some of our clothes are from victims. You might bite someone and then you think, ooh, those are some nice pants. Do with these. Change it.
When you're a vampire, you become very sexy.
Because vampires don't have reflections. So they have all these cartoon sketches of one another to see what they look like going out in their outfits.
To us. Not sure about the waistcoat. I go for a look which I call dead but delicious. We are the bait, but we are also the trap.
Hello, ladies.
I mean, you just can't. I don't know if you can beat it. I just think it's
good.
It's just that perfect mix of
camp.
Yeah, it's incredibly camp. But I mean, Jermaine Clements is, and
it's understated, I think, as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, the clip. I could have included one of the clips that I love, but I didn't. Is the werewolves one, which I find amazing. The werewolves, not swearwolves. You know, it's just it's so incredibly funny, and I think it's endlessly watchable. I think that's the reason to have it on this list, is because I could watch it 10 times in a week and probably still find something to laugh at.
Very watchable.
Yeah, that's my first one.
Right. Second one for me.
Second time round.
We're going back in time, 1968, I want to say.
Wow.
2001, Space Odyssey. Kubrick.
Oh.
Yeah, we're going with the best film of all time. That is 2001, Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick. I picked this one mostly because of what is happening in the world right now with AI and all the conversation around. I think it's incredibly prescient, that film. And obviously it has been referenced so many times in so many films. It has the best villain of all time, HAL 3000. And it just for me personally, was the first film that I saw, maybe Inception aside, that makes me weird about comparing Inception to 2001. It's the film that I saw when I was probably 13 or 14, that when I saw it, and I remember I was in my tiny bedroom in Greece, and I saw it on my laptop, and I was like, wait, you can do that in front of a camera? As in it really opened my eyes in terms of what's possible in the cinematic language. So yeah, really proud of that pick. I don't know if have you guys seen it?
I haven't seen it.
You should.
I've never seen it. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the. I feel guilty for not having seen it, and I feel like people listening to this will be like, "How the fuck?"
Because I know Arthur C. Clarke was regularly consulted on space exploration type matters, wasn't he? Because he sort of became an authority on what's going on around the universe, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Which is mad. How someone pumping out culture stuff can become a technical consultant on what's going on.
I mean, I think, you both like sci-fi, great sci-fi films. So I think this is right up your alley, and you will really enjoy the villain. You will really appreciate how incredibly eye-opening it is in terms of how Kubrick understood AI back in the day and space exploration, human nature. It's compelling.
And I mean, it's one of those things that's referenced in so many.
Exactly.
But I think my first interaction with it, even, I mean, outside of the film itself, is there's an episode of Futurama about it where Bender falls in love with the spaceship, and they even have the similar thing. And then there's also a Simpsons episode where they get a HAL 3000 for the house that Pierce Brosnan is the voice of, and I think Matthew Perry, who just passed away, is one of the voices of it as well. And they fall in love with the house, and the house tries to kill them and stuff. So it's constantly HAL 3000 and 2001 is kind of constantly referenced, and the music as well, right? Isn't that the Is it the start of Barbie?
That's Planet of the Apes.
That's Planet of the Apes.
But very similar. Very similar in terms of impact. Simon, your second one.
Number 2.
You guys have got to guess it. Okay, I'm going to give you the cast.
Oh, I love it.
Doubtfire.
No.
Oh my god! If you'd gotten it on the first, got Nuns on the Run.
Nope. No. I'm going to give you some clues.
Okay.
Monty Python.
First clue: Tim Curry.
Rocky Horror.
That's so interesting. Really?
You're wearing the hoodie today,
exactly.
Right?
That is amazing.
Was one of the clues going to be I'm wearing it right now?
Without sounding creepy, like how Richard O'Brien actually is in the film, quite creepy. In a nice,
turns out you're wearing
way.
fishnets under those trousers.
Yeah, so I picked this 1975. Here's a flavour.
In just 7 days, I can make you a man.
So good.
Okay, originality 10 out of 10, risk taking 10 out of 10, wig work 10 out of 10, cross dressing 10 out of 10, emotional drama 10 out of 10, absurdity, and so on and so on and so on.
I mean, it's like this list is just based for Rocky Horror.
Yeah, exactly. I'm aware that I made the list around my own films, so obviously we'll have to adjust.
I thought of that. That's a pretty
It's
good
a good
pick.
shout, though.
Yeah.
Rocky Horror is one of those ones where, when they send like they'll send satellites out into the galaxy with like a plate on it with binary stuff, and there'll be like music and inscribed in it. If you want to like show a part of humanity that is just absolutely bizarre and absurd, send Rocky Horror out into space and let the aliens watch it.
Culturally dead important. It showed gender bending. It's okay to be a freaky, weird person that doesn't fit in. Pushing the boundaries on like normalizing different sexualities. I
mean, it's telling that
the church probably hated it.
Yeah, but it's telling that you'll find a lot of cinemas pretty much you'll probably find at least 1 or 2 cinemas in every country around the world that has a Rocky Horror Night every now and again.
Yeah.
Because people just love it and they sell it out and people come dressed as the character. Like it's a film that like deeply resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah. The songs are also excellent. There's Meatloaf's in it, and the Time Warp's probably a song that's. I mean, kids like the Time Warp now.
Time Warp was playing it at every Irish wedding I have ever been to. Yeah. Won't be played at mine, but at most. Irish
and the
weddings.
songs also contribute to the narrative flow of the film. They're not just like shoehorned in. It's like a big part of the actual storytelling.
Yeah. I mean, my second one, I couldn't go to the desert island without a Bond film.
Of course.
And it leads into my third one, but we'll get to that later. But it has to be Casino Royale. So it was not the first I saw in the cinema, it was the second. Obviously, I saw Die Another Day in the cinema. And it, as someone who had grown up with the films, Daniel Craig is my Bond. Like he's the one that I've seen all the films of. And in a time when Bond was being completely like surpassed and outdated by the Bourne films, they reinvented it in a way that made it like cool and relevant and like a lot grittier than it ever had been before.
It's probably what License to Kill did in the 80s.
Yeah, well, I think even to a better extent. And I think like Craig kind of defined himself as Bond there, whether he will have liked doing that or not. But again, I mean, the action sequences in it are incredible. Like that opening, the fact that it opens in black and white, you're like, oh my God, this is... And then there's that the fight scene in the bathroom leads into the chase scene through like the construction site. There's the amazing like car flip. And
You're making me want to watch it.
I've rewatched it recently and I did a double bill with it in Quantum of Solace, and I actually brought a Quantum clip.
Quantum of Solace.
Quantum's not going in the desert island with me, but if you want to watch Quantum of Solace and really appreciate it, you need to watch the 2 films back to back, because it's the first time they ever did like a direct sequel with like, Quantum starts like 10 minutes supposedly after Casino finishes, and they're a perfect little pair together. And it's just, I mean, I can't think of anything wrong with it. It's my favorite Bond film. He's my favorite Bond. I just love all of it. I think it's so good. And it gave him like an emotional edge, which he'd never really had before. Obviously in On Her Majesty's Secret Service, they did his marriage and stuff like that, but his relationship with Vesper was just something else. I thought it was incredible. And it's one of those films that, having rewatched it again recently, I sit there with a smile on my face from the minute it starts. You see the outside of that building in Prague in black and white. The minute it starts, I'm like, I'm in.
You really don't know anything
This is from Quantum. It's so good. This is Mr. White from the end of Casino.
It's so amusing because we are on the other side thinking, oh, the MI6, the CIA, they're looking over our shoulders, they're listening to our conversations, and the truth is you don't even know we exist.
Well, we do now, Mr. White. And we're quick learners.
Oh, really? Well, then the first thing you should know about us is that we have people everywhere. Am I right?
Bang. So good. And actually that leads on to another scene later in the film, which Judi Dench delivers possibly the greatest line of all time, when she says, she's like, when people say we have people everywhere, it's normally hyperbole. They don't mean it. I mean, florists say we have people everywhere. And it's so good. It's so brilliant.
Bringing it back down to earth.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Fantastic.
Wonderful.
And I mean, that's another thing that Casino has. Judi Dench is
line.
incredible as M. But yeah, Casino is coming with me. That's movie number 2.
It's definitely the best Bond film.
For sure. Hands down.
For sure. Yeah. Okay, number 3 for me, Parasite.
Ooh.
Oh, okay, cool.
Parasite. I just want to pick a modern one just because
nice,
it's...
relaxing one.
Something chill that we're all baking in the sunlight on the desert island, wondering where the water's coming from next.
This is good for the tension, Top Trump.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. That's 10 out of 10.
Yeah, but I also think it's, in a weird way, it's very satirical. Like, it has heavy black humor vibes, especially the first two acts are very satirical. And then you get whatever. Like, I don't want to spoil it for people if in case you haven't seen Parasite for whatever reason. But the reason I picked it is because I feel like, besides the fact that it's super rich in social critique, storytelling, and all of those things, it really paved the way for a wave of films in so many different ways that wouldn't have come otherwise. So firstly, from international film standpoint, the fact that, it got so much traction, I feel like this is the reason we're now seeing Korean and generally like Asian films in cinema in a way that we haven't seen before, and you're getting so much mainstream traction. And, it's okay to watch a film with subtitles right now, even though it was such a taboo and everyone was like eye rolling their eyes, oh, do I have to really turn on the subtitles? I feel like Bong Joon-ho really normalized that. And then from a thematical standpoint, I do think in a way it started the whole, not tax the rich, messaging, but more like the war with the rich. And then you had a White Lotus season 2. You had Triangle of Sadness. You had a wave of films that truly addressed capitalism in a way that hadn't been done before. And on top of it all, just a great film with an amazing, one of the best plot twists of our century, if not the best one. So it has everything. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, very, very horrible. Yeah, it's a great choice though. I love it.
Yeah. So, number 3?
Number 3 is my 1990s choice, and it is Mrs. Doubtfire.
Of course. Classic.
Because wig work.
Yeah.
Cross-dressing.
Yeah.
Originality.
Yeah.
Emotional drama. It's all there.
It's got Brosnan.
I'm
going Bond heavy on this episode, and I don't care.
I knew you'd like the fact Brosnan was in it.
I love him. His hairy chest.
Yeah.
What Brosnan in the 80s and 90s, devilishly handsome.
How did they
still
sell that film in? I mean, it's absolutely madness. And how did the film that's so absurd, it could be a horror film on paper, yet it's this really emotional family love story, really, but it's like completely bonkers. So yeah, I've picked it because I like the humor in it. I like the soundtrack's really fun with like Aerosmith and stuff.
Yeah.
And I really like the kind of family emotional tale it tells. The ending, when I was a kid, I used to find the ending really sad when Robin Williams is sort of not Mrs. Doubtfire and he's presenting his TV show and the kids all gather to watch it in the lounge. And he tells this story about a kid whose parents aren't going to get back together, and it's kind of a metaphor for his home family life. And it's really deep. Incredible. And it's directed by Chris Columbus, who's, of Home Alone 1 and 2 fame. And just that was his kind of peak movie, I think. It was that kind of era. So yeah, very cool.
Nice. So my final one, and I'm glad I've brought this now because I'm the only one who's brought an animated film, is I think, and the reason I brought it is because I think it's my favorite Pixar film of all time. It is what Zack Snyder wishes his Watchmen film was, is The Incredibles.
Right.
Right, okay.
To go to just, first of all, the soundtrack is incredible. It's like this amazing kind of like 60s jazzy kind of like, spy noir soundtrack. It's so good. The story's fantastic. The casting is amazing. The idea of the young, if everybody can be, when everybody's super, no one is, Syndrome as the bad guy is so good. You have those, endlessly quotable scenes of Frozone, the "Where is my super suit," which will probably follow Samuel L. Jackson around, along with all of his other catchphrases for his career. But it's not done justice by the second one. The second one is nowhere near as good, and it was always going to be difficult. But that first Incredibles film, I remember seeing it in the cinema and was blown away by it as like a 10-year-old. And it is the first, I have such a vivid memory. It is the first DVD that I ever went into a shop and I pre-ordered. Because
That's
I knew
so
it was
cool.
coming out, and I remember going in with like my 10 euros in hand being like, I'd like to pre-order The Incredibles, please. And like them taking my name and I think my mum's phone number.
I mean,
and
how
just being
much
that.
more in advance did it mean you get the DVD?
Oh, it
than
meant I
anybody
got
else?
it on the day.
Yeah.
It meant I got it on the day, but I was guaranteed to get it on the day,
Yeah.
because I was so convinced everyone was going to want to buy it that they'd
Love
sell out.
It
So
was a
I wanted
massive
to pre-order
success, to be
it.
fair.
Yeah, it was huge. It's Brad Bird who's done some other amazing films. He went on
Right.
and did some of the Mission Impossibles. And yeah, I fucking love it. It's so good. It's such an entertaining film. And yeah, another one that's like endlessly quotable. And I think I could probably just listen to the soundtrack on repeat as well. As I say, it's so good. And as I've mentioned before, it's everything that Zack Snyder wanted Watchmen to be. You know, it's that story of like superheroes going into hiding and because, you know, society doesn't want them anymore and then being brought back out by this supervillain who is trying to convince everyone that he's saving the world, but actually he's the one causing all the destruction, you know.
I'm annoyed I don't remember it very well. I need to rewatch it.
Oh my God. Trust me, it is worth it.
I've not seen it.
Oh dude, it's so watch it with your daughter. It's incredible. It's incredible. Oh, see what I did there?
Oh, that's so
But yeah,
cool.
that's my third one. So
Okay.
I've got The Incredibles, Casino Royale, and What We Do in the Shadows.
Cool.
Sophie's brought
Parasite, 2001, and Fight Club.
And I've got Death of Stalin, Rocky Horror Picture Show, and Mrs. Doubtfire.
Nice.
Jeez, okay.
So the next time we do this feature, this is when it's going to get interesting because one of us is going to try and replace one of the other's films. So that's where it's going to get, as you say, Simon, your list of... I mean, cross-dressing is going to be a hard one to get to try and knock out Rocky Horror, but we'll see. And that'll be something that we can, we can get the listeners involved with. So that'll be an interesting one to come back to.
That is so interesting. Do we want them to have a first vote in the meantime or not yet?
I don't think so. Just go and try and watch all those films.
That's true.
Do a like a Lord of the Rings style marathon of watching all 9 films if you can.
That's true. If you're listening, you have homework.
Oh, look, a message from our sponsor.
G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. Nah, yo, hold my poodle. Hey, yo, what's up? Y'all got a problem? Y'all want some of this? Without much further ado, here we go again.
So we jump right into our final scene?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay. Did we tell people we're going to do Reservoir Dogs last time?
Yep.
I think we
so.
did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, I feel like this film needs no introduction. It's
Well, it did for me because I'd never seen it.
What?
So
Really?
I needed an introduction.
That is so interesting.
Have you seen much Tarantino?
Yeah, a fair bit, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting
But,
that you haven't seen Reservoir
Seen
Dogs.
it,
though.
no.
Had you heard of the film before?
Yeah, I knew it was quite violent, and I think my
Bit of an understatement.
I think because my mum was quite anti-violent films, that was very like, it was kind of like, I can't remember how old I was when it came out. I was quite young, and it was like a
early
film.
90s, wasn't it? I think
Yeah,
91,
1992.
Yeah, I was like under 10, so
Yeah.
like, it was like
Definitely shouldn't have been watching this, for sure.
Well, oddly, it's his least violent film.
wow.
I don't know, when the guy gets his ear
1000%.
cut off, that's pretty
The
graphic.
torturing
But
scenes
that's
pretty
it.
horrible.
That's it. I mean, if you think of Kill Bill 1, Django,
Dude, there's like people getting shot in shot.
Inglourious Bastards. Every single
Yeah.
film of his is
I can't watch the scalping in
No.
Inglourious Bastards.
No.
I always squint my eyes.
maybe it's up there with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but I feel like the shootout of Once Upon a Time was pretty
You also
brutal.
have Tim Roth bleeding out for the entire film.
Yeah, but it didn't feel violent in a way. It didn't feel, it was like, okay,
No,
cool,
well,
you're
and
building.
I'll get onto that. Don't you worry.
Alrighty.
I'll get onto that soon when my
Alrighty.
takes on this film. That's not to say I don't love this film because I do. Like, I really, really think it's one of my favorite Tarantino films. I actually did it as a 1-act drama play as like a teenager,
That
which
is
we
so
definitely shouldn't have
interesting.
been doing. But yeah, I definitely have issues with it for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, I feel like a lot of people think or see Reservoir Dogs as their favorite Tarantino film, so I would like to get to that. But briefly, I mean, we know the cast. Harvey Keitel. I mean, come on. Like, he was the most experienced actor coming into the play.
Even more than Steve Buscemi. Was he not
he
big
was just
then?
starting. Yeah, no, he was super
he was
young.
still quite early in his career, Buscemi, I'd say.
Yeah, I think Keitel was at his peak career at the
Right.
time. And if anything, he was the one that read the script and came on to produce because he loved the script so much. So we wouldn't have the film if it wasn't for Harvey. So kudos to Harvey.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Oh, you have thoughts?
So I mean, it gets kind of into my main thought in this film.
There you go.
I love this film, but there is nothing in either Harvey Keitel or Tim Roth's performances in this film that justify the way their two characters act to one another. It is their relationship is so bizarre and unwarranted from what we see that actually there's a lot of it I just can't get on board with. Because especially that opening scene where they're in the car together. So if you play the clip that I've got, so I've got a clip from the first scene where they're all sitting around the dining table, they're at the diner, And this is where we get our kind of first intro to Keitel and to Tim Roth.
Give me that fucking thing. Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing? Give me my book.
I'm sick of fucking hearing it, Joe. I'll give it back to you when we leave.
What do you mean when we leave? Give me it back now.
For the past 15 minutes now, you've been droning on about names. Toby. Toby Wong. Toby Wong.
I really thought he was going to do Toby Wong Kenobi joke then.
Chung, fucking Charlie Chan. I've got Madonna's big dick coming out of my left ear, and Toby the Jap, I don't know what, coming out of my right.
Give me that book.
Are you going to put it away?
I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want with it.
Well, then I'm afraid I'm going to have to keep it.
Hey, Joe. Want me to shoot this guy?
Shit. You shoot me in a dream, you better wake up and apologize.
So that line, you shoot me in a dream, you better wake up and apologize, is the only believable line he says in that entire film. But if you watch that, and you watch the way Tarantino has obviously positioned Tim Roth beside him, he is sitting there. Well, first of all, the suit looks too big for him, and that's probably an intention that he looks out of place. But he's like, kind of like, he looks like a little brother beside him. And you think, okay, we're going to get something here. There'll be something that shows why these two are close. And then we get into the next scene where he's like caring for him after he's been shot. And he's, what we're led to believe Harvey Keitel is this incredibly experienced guy. Like, this is not his first diamond heist. And yet a lot of the stuff he does with giving Tim Roth's character his name, his argument with Steve Buscemi's character, Mr. Pink, who is the only one acting in, as he calls it, a professional way, just doesn't make sense. And you get these flashbacks to him meeting Joe, and then you get Tim Roth's flashbacks to him infiltrating the gang. I don't find at any point there is a justification to that relationship, which feels bizarre.
I agree with you in the sense that this is one of the reasons I have slight issues with the ending.
Yeah.
And why Mr. White does what he does for Mr. Orange.
Yeah.
Going back to what you said, I don't think the relationship has been built up in a way that justifies why would White kill his friends.
Yeah.
Why
would he betray Joe, who he's supposedly known for years?
Yeah.
He's known Joe for years and years and years. He's known Mr. Orange for a couple of days. I understand that people will say, well, he feels guilty because he thinks that, because he mentions it at some point, like, oh, the reason he got shot is because of me. But the issue I always had with it was that on paper, you have this guy who was supposed to be this calm, like he's supposed to be like Winston Wolfe, the character he plays in Pulp Fiction. The kind of calm, calculated, he knows everything that is going on, but at no point does Keitel feel in control. He should be the one in control, but he doesn't. He doesn't feel like there's any level of, I know what's going on, I know what to do, blah, 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 blah. And his dialogue's really stilted as well. And maybe that's just how it's written, and it's Tarantino is his first film. But I don't know. So what did you make of it? If you hadn't seen it before, obviously this is like my second or third time seeing it. What did you think, having not seen it before?
I didn't really like it.
Yeah.
I didn't think the violence was justified in it. It wasn't really earned. Because the characters were so irredeemably awful. I couldn't really get on board with any of it. I was not rooting for anyone.
Really, I rooted for Mr. Orange, but maybe because I love Roth so much. I think ultimately it is an impressive debut, because we have to remember that this is his very first film, Tarantino's first film. So there are so many things that are going, like, they're just incredible about this film. And he only had, I don't know, like less than 2 million to make this film. So
it felt like watching a play. I think as a play, it would work so well.
So that's so when I did it as like an Amdram thing when I was like 16, we just did the scenes in the warehouse, because actually they're the ones with like the most substance. And I feel like the thing that's always associated with Reservoir Dogs, it's the movie about a diamond heist where you never see the diamond heist.
Right.
And actually so much of that background you just don't need to see. You actually could do the whole film within the warehouse and not have to see some of these. I mean, like Steve Buscemi's only shot is him sprinting down.
Yeah. I felt like the cutaways to the, what happened at the heist or at the end of the heist, quite relief. It was like, some like respite of like this, the heaviness of these scenes. I see what
you mean. But the only one that I think that gives even a little bit of justifiable background is Mr. Blonde's one. where you see him, talking with Eddie and Joe as he's gotten out of prison.
Mhm.
That gives you a little bit of that really plays in and shows you why when, Joe talks about like what is it with this guy who came out of prison who we know has done prison time for like, what is it? Whatever it is. He took the fall for Joe and Eddie. He's like, of course he wouldn't fucking like you're telling me that the guy who did this would fucking betray me to the police. Are you joking me?
Mhm.
That's fine. But I don't think in either of the we get some stuff to throw away comments in other people's scenes. So in Tim Roth's, he talks about hearing where Mr. White is from, or he's from like Wisconsin or something like that.
Yeah.
And him being like, oh, you got to go through and look at all the mugshots of people in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that actually justifies the way the characters end, which obviously with those two, we're assuming is, I mean, the way I see it is White shoots him in the head and then White gets blown away is the way I kind of,
Mhm.
but obviously it kind of fades to black. I think the first gunshot is White. So I don't even think that's debatable.
We're gonna get to that. I think I wish we had a couple more relationship building scenes with them too, and take out Roth's past, because I felt like those scenes didn't work at all. Like those vignettes of like him.
Yes, I agree.
For sure.
It took me out of the film completely. It's like, what am I watching? Because when you look at other Tarantino films, when he's involved as a director, the vignettes, like those throwbacks, have a massive payoff every single time. But I get like that was his show. I get that, but I wish we would have those out of the way and we just have like, to your point, Ben, a justification as to why he almost feels indebted to.
Yeah.
He's committed to.
We don't know why.
Yeah, to getting him keeping him alive and making sure that he's okay. So we can get to that. But Simon, I know you also brought a scene that you want to talk about.
Yes, I brought the scene which is Mr. White, Harvey Keitel, and Steve Buscemi, Mr. Pink, kind of arguing together.
Mhm.
But I actually brought it for probably not a reason that you guys are thinking of. It's because in this scene, Steve Buscemi trips over his words. And that's what it added to the vibe that it was like this kind of play / opera
It's
thing.
almost done in one take.
So absolutely. And I really like the rawness of it. But see what you guys think. Listen to Steve Buscemi try and get his lines out. He sort of stumbles first time, then he really stumbles the second time.
The cops did not show up after the alarm went off. Right? The cops didn't show up until after Mr. Blunt started shooting everybody.
As soon as I heard the alarm, I saw the
No,
cops.
man, I'm telling you, it wasn't that soon, okay? They didn't let their presence be known until after Mr. Blonde became a madman, all right? I'm not saying they weren't there. I'm saying they were there. But they didn't make their move until after Mr. Blonde started shooting everybody.
You could read that as it's because he's very intense. He can't think straight. But to me, it just seemed like a bit of a stumble. Like
Yeah,
a
they
kind
probably
of
didn't have the budget to do another
yeah,
tape.
they ran out of
And
film stock or
it's
something.
difficult dialogue to get out as well. You try writing that down and saying it back to yourself. It's like it's interesting because Tarantino is someone who probably prides himself on his dialogue. Like, he had like almost West Wing, the way the West Wing is famous for all its walking shots. Tarantino's really famous for his like quick back and forth and kind of conversations like that. But he feels really raw. You can see, and it's funny because if you then compare that to like Pulp Fiction, which is 2 or 3 years later, you can see in that time maybe how much Tarantino learned from Reservoir Dogs in how to write and how to direct these scenes. And then especially with Pulp Fiction, how to piece that stuff together.
Yeah, my hot take, as you guys would say with Tarantino, is that he resorts too quickly to extreme violence to make emotional impact in the films. Like, I remember watching Django Unchained, which I think is an amazing film, but that's the one with the Mandingo fighting, right?
Yeah.
And I was like so disgusted by that, and I couldn't watch it, and I was like squirming in my seat, and I'm sure that's what he wanted. But I just don't think a lot of the violence in these films is warranted. And I feel like he's desensitizing everyone with this violence, because once you've seen that stuff, you can't unsee it. And so that, your kind of violence threshold goes up every time you watch these films, which is why I'm quite careful with what I try and watch. You know what I mean? I'm quite mindful of it, because once you've seen this stuff, it's like becomes nothing.
Well, Tarantino is the director who's constantly pulled into those conversations, isn't he?
What conversations?
It was a Krishnan.
Oh, the Krishna Guru Murphy from Channel 4 News.
Tarantino is constantly pulled into these conversations around violence and kind of desensitizing people, because
I know it's exciting.
He uses it as a tool.
Shocking.
Yeah.
But I don't think he created that genre or that way of making films. If anything, Tarantino is the only auteur out there who's still alive who actually doesn't have, and I'm not saying that as a, like, I'm not trying, like, this is almost like a compliment. I don't think he has an original vision. Obviously, there are original things that make a Tarantino film, but ultimately, he's the biggest movie cinema buff of all time, and all he does is paying tribute to his favorite decades, that is 60s, that is 40s, that is 20s, and basically a bunch of westerns and a bunch of black films, from the 40s. And all of those films, especially the westerns, have extreme violence.
Really?
Oh my God! Think of all the
John Wayne,
Clint Eastwood,
John Wayne, Clint Eastwood films, and how much violence they have for
no
justification whatsoever.
But is it the type of
spaghetti
violence
westerns
that feels, because Tarantino does violence in a very real, visceral way? Is the Western violence not a bit more sort of cartoonified, a bit more wooden, a bit more
of course, he's bringing that it's more stylized, his way
this is
of
more
making
sadistic
films,
and more subversive, and it's darker.
The westerns are pretty sadistic.
Okay.
What they did to native, it's pretty dark and very racist.
Yeah.
So I don't I get I think it's a type of film. It's like, do you like horror films or not? Like the violence in horror films, Saw films.
I watched this just on face value, and I guess if I knew more about the Western tradition and stuff, then it would probably make more sense to me.
He's paying tribute to a lot of that, to that era and type of storytelling. I'm not saying that's my type of storytelling necessarily, but I agree with you. I think Django is one of my favorite films of all time.
It's incredible, yeah.
But the reason it works is because it has that emotional impact, and it has a story, and it's actually social critique into what happened back then. But
for all the things that people kind of criticize him on with his violence, from Reservoir Dogs and his filmography in general, the Stuck in the Middle with You scene with Michael Madsen and the police officer is probably his most well-known scene, or at least his the one that sticks in popular culture the most. I mean, everybody talks about Tarantino's use of music and stuff. That's the epitome of that.
It's simple juxtaposition, isn't it? It's like have something really dark happening in the picture and have some really happy music playing.
Yeah, it's incredible. And also that's why I go back to, I think apart from Buscemi, I think Madsen's performance is the most believable one in the film.
It's the best. Yeah,
Madsen's not necessarily, Michael Madsen's not by far and away not the greatest actor in the world, but as Mr. Blonde, he's fantastic.
I love him in this film.
I do wonder, would the cutting of the ear scene again be more justified if we had seen more of the diamond heist? Because we're constantly told throughout that, the reason it all went crazy is because Mr. Blonde starts shooting a load of people, which we never see.
Well,
we never even see his getaway.
Right.
He just arrives. He arrives there with a policeman in the trunk.
Right.
The only ones we actually see getting away from the diamond heist are pink, white, and orange.
Well, in a Tarantino interview, I heard that the main reason, obviously, that he didn't show the heist was because of budget. Yeah. But another big reason, as Tarantino said, is, I wanted the audience to try to get what actually happened through the different perspectives. And I actually feel like it works because we have a bunch of unreliable narrators. And I think that's quite interesting. Even though I don't think many people argue that Madsen's character is a psycho from what has happened.
No, I don't think trust me, if you have an argument as to why he's not, please God, let me know. But I don't really think there is any argument to how he couldn't be one of the kind of most sadistic characters Tarantino's probably ever written.
For sure.
Because he is just a plain old psychopath.
Yeah.
I mean, funny considering his brother's so much more chilled in Pulp Fiction. Mm-hmm. Vince and Vic are two very different people.
Yeah. Okay, so to move on to the actual final scene, and I know Simon had been preparing this incredible edit for us. So I'm just gonna read the plot here just to get to because I think the scene that I picked kind of skips to the very final few seconds. So as a severely wounded White cradles the dying Orange in his arms, Orange confesses that he's a police officer. we need to talk about that. I know, Ben, you have thoughts about it. Yeah. Feeling betrayed and guilty of having killed his accomplices and for having confided in a snitch he thought was a friend, White presses his gun to Orange's head, but is still conflicted on whether to pull the trigger or no. This is where I have the scene that I feel like you could play, because this is heavy grunting work from Harvey Keitel.
Yeah, we should add a category of grunt work. Close your eyes, everyone.
Some license was taken there, but
yeah,
it is very grunty.
It's so interesting to unpack that grunting, because what is he thinking right now? He's thinking, I just killed 2 friends that I shouldn't have for a snitch, pretty much. He's also thinking, oh, I'm going to get caught. I'm going to die. What is he also thinking at this moment? Why is the heavy grunting?
I think he's just thinking, I'm dead already.
I'm dead already.
I don't think he's thinking I'm going to, I'm going to get caught or anything like that. He's like, I'm dead already. What do I do next?
Yeah.
But that's why I think that, like, what's really, like, contradictory about, again, Keitel's character is that, you know, someone like him who's had a long career in the business of, like, robbing banks and robbing people and in crime, feels like they wouldn't have a little bit more of an idea about what they're doing in that scenario and have come to terms with things a little bit better. And actually, he's just made so many mistakes in the last 20 minutes of the film for then it all to just kind of be like, I'm a cop. And you're like, he's probably like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Which is why I have a feeling there's a bit of a betrayal happening,
yeah,
right?
100%. Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's hard to believe that because we don't really see why this again goes back to my point. We don't really see why they're that close. And I don't think there's anything, like, there's not enough nuance in either of those actors' performances in the film to hint towards why there is that. You don't really connect to any of them. I think maybe Tarantino wants you to try and connect to that relationship between White and Roth or White and Orange as a younger and older mentor kind of relationship. But I don't think the film gives enough to justify that.
Yeah.
Yeah, my read was that because they've all been thrown together and they don't even know each other's names, that's why there's so much mistrust, and that's why there's so much suspicion. They're back at the safe house. Has the safe house been rumbled? Is there a snitch? So it makes sense that they wouldn't trust each other, but it still doesn't help me have any more connection to the characters.
For sure.
We then move to the actual shootout.
Face! Drop the fucking gun, buddy! No! Put the gun down! Don't do it! Drop the gun, man! Don't drop the gun! Do it! Drop the fucking gun! I'm gonna fucking blow you away!
And that's pretty much the end of the film. However, when I went down the Reddit rabbit hole, because I had to, and maybe because I actually grabbed that snippet from YouTube, maybe there are like a few more seconds in the end. Someone on Reddit claimed that the reason Mr. Pink actually doesn't die, because when you hear the shootout, there are cops inside the warehouse and there are cops outside of the warehouse. I mean, from the sound design point of view. But apparently, if you turn up the volume, you can hear Buscemi saying, "God damn it, I've been shot," or like, "Stop it, I've been shot, God damn it," something like that. So he's not actually dead, and he actually, I don't want to say get away, but he's not actually dead.
I read
in the Tarantino style.
I read someone saying that you can hear his car trying to be started outside.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Has Tarantino ever addressed it?
Yes, Tarantino claims he lived.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I always thought. I always took it as he just got away. I've never tried to listen for anything in it, because in my head, Buscemi's character from the outset has been like, we need to leave. Like, staying around here is a fucking stupid idea. We need to get out of here. And he's the only one with some common sense. He throughout the whole thing, he's the only one for me who had any as much common sense as you can have when you rob diamonds for a living.
If you can imagine this was a play and you compare it to something like Inspector Calls or something, there's no like moral there's no moral takeaway. There's no like there's no reason for these diamonds to mean anything. Like it's like it's missing a layer for me.
No.
It's like we're just in this world of chaos, and it's reasonably interesting and exciting, and there's a torture scene which is very shocking, but There's no, it needs another layer to like hook me in emotionally to it.
And that's what I mean. I think what we're missing in some, as you said, Sophie, like some, you know, if you swap Tim Roth's scenes for some additional ones between the group in earlier, you know, before the robbery or whatever it is, because all we get of them together is the diner scene at the start, which is just a completely abstract scene in which all Tarantino wants to do is get away his weird theories about Like a Virgin.
Right.
Which, you know.
And the tipping conversation with Buscemi.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to get to that because I actually, like, going back to what you said, Ben, I do think the moral tale, if there is one, is that if you're practical and you look after yourself, you're most likely to survive. And I think this is why Buscemi's character survives. And I mean, from what I heard, he survives, but he is actually caught by the cops, so he doesn't actually get away. But ultimately,
same.
But ultimately, that's better than being dead.
Yeah.
Ultimately, But I actually, I wish I had the clip. Maybe we can find it in post-production. I found a clip from Buscemi claiming that his take on the character is that he had an ironic fate because in Pulp Fiction, Buscemi's playing a waiter.
Oh, yeah.
So it was almost like the Tarantino universe where Buscemi comes back as a waiter after that scene where he claimed that, hey, tipping is,
Well, I mean, it's all the same unit. Maybe he's on parole. I mean, because as I say, like John Travolta's character in Pulp Fiction is Michael Madsen's brother. So it's all supposed to be set in the same world.
Exactly, yeah.
So he's Vic Vega.
Right,
and
okay.
in Pulp Fiction,
well, that makes sense,
John Travolta's Vince
exactly.
Vega.
So Buscemi's like, yeah, I'm actually like on parole in Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, which is great. I mean, I like the fact that those two films connect together. It gives it a little bit more depth.
Yeah, according to Buscemi, yeah. So in that way, I like that. A very nihilistic take because it shows that you shouldn't look out for, your...
Well, I mean, it's like dog eat dog, I guess, as the title would suggest. And it's kind of every man for himself.
Yeah.
Unless you're Mr. White and Mr. Orange, in which it's me and you together forever, buddy. But you've betrayed me and I fucking hate you and I'm going to blow your brains out. Oh, you dick.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, I will say, last thing on performances, because I feel like I've been banging this drum, but there's a lot of overacting in it as well.
I think it's meant to be, though. We're also talking like early 90s. Film...
It's very...
It came out with Basic
Instinct.
Maybe
that's the whole point, but maybe that's what he's trying to
Basic
do, but it all feels
more
like
stylized,
overacted.
It's more like it suits it.
No, I mean in terms of overacting.
But as you say, almost like a play, Simon, in which like a play, theatre. I won a Best Actor award as a 16-year-old, for instance.
What were you? Who did you play?
I played Mr. White.
All right,
that's so cool.
But see, that's what I said. That's why I say, because I think it's different. Because when I did it, I hadn't seen the film, and when I read the script that we had, which was just the indoor scenes in the warehouse, the way I always took it is that Mr. White is someone who should be completely in control for all of it. And then when it gets to the end of it, it's like that it's the ultimate betrayal. Like, because as someone who's led that life of crime in amongst all these people, to make you kill this person that you've worked with for so long and his son,
right,
and get you shot as well, feels like, he, if he did survive, it would never happen again because he'd never let his guard down again. But to me, it always feels like he lacks that sense of control and composure that he should have. I think if you read it rather than watching it, read it as a novel or as like a script, I think his dialogue makes it feel like he should have more control than Keitel's performance actually gives it.
Yeah. I think we saw the ending again. I will say though, I know I feel like we were very harsh on the film because to remember, like again, it's first film of a director who came to create something quite compelling, like the non-linear is the word, storytelling, like also directing all these actors in one single setting is, I'm assuming it's just incredibly hard. So it has its faults, but it's a great debut.
That's
overall.
The thing, like I'm highly critical of it, but I still love it as a film.
Yeah.
I still really enjoy it. I think this, again, like I feel like you and I possibly always harp on about music and films, but the soundtrack's incredible. Yeah. That opening scene with Little Green Bag is so good. Like it's like that opening scene. Well, not opening scene, but that's a bit after the opening with Little Green Bag, where they're walking across the car park. They're all in the suits. They're all in the Ray-Bans. It is so effortlessly cool. like people still dress up as Reservoir Dogs characters to these days because
it's almost glamorized being a gangster.
Yeah, yeah. In the same way that stuff like Goodfellas and all did, like Tarantino did it in a.
There's nothing glamorous about that film, though.
No, but
They're
I think
all a bunch of losers.
No, but in the 90s, though, you could probably watch that and feel cool for watching.
Yeah,
it.
I think so. I think he
yeah.
glamorizes it in like a kind of a dirtier way. In the same way that I was saying about Casino Royale. Casino Royale took Bond and made it a grittier thing. He kind of glamorized that gangster
what about
film.
Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels? That was a similar idea.
An English take.
Yeah. Same sort of thing, glamorizing violence, adding a bit more humor in it.
Yeah.
Gritty, very violent.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe giving Tarantino way too much credit. I just thought he meant to show them as a bunch of racist, misogynistic losers. I don't think he was trying to glamorize that. I think he was trying to be sarcastic, but maybe that's my take on it.
I think it's more so, but like a look and feel,
right?
Rather than those
I meant
characters.
aesthetically more. Than else,
aesthetically, like it's the suits, the glasses, the music. You know, it's a
for
very
a moment it was glamorous, but obviously just for a moment until it all goes to shit.
Yeah, it's a very like machismo kind of way of directing these. Like that whole shot, like it's supposed to be cool. Like that's kind of what it is supposed to be, and then it lures you into a false sense of security because then it goes into complete chaos. Goes from these guys so coolly, calmly walking like, oh, we're grand, like we're cool, we're bank robbers, we're going to go steal these diamonds, everything's great, to immediately Tim Roth bleeding out in the back of a car.
Yeah.
Like it lures you into a false sense of security and then you're in it now and it's just going.
Cool. Okay. That's a wrap. I'm very proud of it. Like I think we really dive deep into it.
Yeah. It's good that we can like take longer. I think this kind of new format's working better, that we can actually devote more time to these endings.
Awesome. Okay. We will be back in a couple of weeks with general movie chat and tell you what you need to be watching next. Hopefully not a Marvel plug for Simon, for the sake of Simon.
No, but the Marvels is coming out this weekend.
That is true. That is true. Simon is shaking.
Do you know what? One of these days, Simon, I promise I'll do an episode where I don't mention Marvel. I can't promise I'll never mention Bond. I couldn't do that.
New Year's resolution.
New
Year's resolution. We can hope.
Okay.
Alrighty. Okay. If you listen this far, you know what to do. Please share with your friends, your Tarantino fans in your group chat. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Did you like it? Did you like that?
Did I like it? I loved it.
I had no idea you could milk a cat.
I have nipples, Greg. Could you milk me?
Good morning.
Morning. Good morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.